Hi everybody, this is Nate Mickish. I'm a member of the Moneywise team and I've been a member of Watermark for a little over a year now. I'm here to show you a demo of the EveryDollar app, which is the application that my family and I use to manage our spending plan. One of the big reasons why we use EveryDollar to manage a spending plan is the ease of use of its mobile application and the simple user interface. We find it just very easy for us to manage our spending plan on a month-to-month basis and execute on our budget. So I'm going to go ahead and log into the application. If you go to everydollar.com, that's where you can access it. I'm using a demo account essentially for this, or a demo budget I should say, for the sake of doing this demonstration. So I've skipped a couple steps. When you go to everydollar.com, if you do not have a sign-in, it's very easy and free to sign up for the application. It really just needs a few basic information elements like your name, email address, and all that kind of thing. The use of the application is free. However, there is a plus membership which links your bank accounts and automatically brings your transactions into the EveryDollar app for you to manage your spending plan. In order to change that, if you want to upgrade, you go to the settings section down here on the bottom left hand and change your membership from basic to plus. We do have the plus membership, which is $99 a year, and the main reason why we do that is we like to having the transactions come into the application automatically helps us manage our spending plan on a month-to-month basis. And so if you're very disciplined with the data entry, I would suggest you not do the plus plan, but if you're not like us, I would suggest you would do it. I think that $99 a year is money well spent in terms of getting everything linked up properly. And most of the transactions that we manage we manage on our mobile devices, so it just makes it very easy for us to go in and drag and drop the expenses into our categories. Another thing I want to point out to you is there's this help center, which is basically just all the FAQs by category or by topic. So like you have your EveryDollar overview, you can get started. It gives you instructions on getting started with EveryDollar, what it is, making some comparisons to pen and paper and spreadsheet budgeting, all that good stuff. You can get into some budgeting basics and how to use the application. So it's a little much for me to go into on the demo, but the biggest thing is just to know that it's there. So if you're if you decide to use this application and you're setting up your first budget, just don't forget that help center's down there. So basically every conceivable question that you might have about the EveryDollar app is covered in that section. Couple other things I want to point out is this is a Dave Ramsey product. So as such, the baby steps are included. So if you do decide to link up your bank accounts or put in your goals, you can do that in here. You can think of this much in the same way as the 4 resolutions and 9 steps that we talk about in Moneywise. And as long as the workbook hasn't been updated, that's on page 7 of your workbook. And so the idea is just to have a plan for the future and how to be a good steward of the resources for which you've been entrusted. So not everything in the baby steps lines up perfectly with the 4 resolutions and the 9 steps, but there's an awful lot of crossover, so you can kind of think about it like that. And then there's this ELP section, which is Dave's endorsed local providers. These are providers of various financial services that Dave Ramsey and his team have vetted and folks that they trust. And so there's a way to link up with them if you decide that you have some need for term life insurance or tax services and all that good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and just set up a basic budget, which if you just click on this budget app. So like I said, this is sort of a demo budget I set up for this exercise. I'm going to go ahead and just make up numbers as I go, just to show you how easy it is to set up your budget in the app. When you do first sign up for EveryDollar, it'll prompt you to set up your first budget, and they have some pre-populated categories that you can change or edit as you see fit, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. But I'll just go ahead and start by putting in salary because that's where it all starts. So I'll put in 3,000 for me, 2,000 for my lovely wife. She stays at home most of the time. So we'll start with just a $5,000 budget for the month. I'll put in 500 for Watermark for church. Put in $500 for emergency fund. Say 150 for children's savings. 200 for a car fund. Now, if you want to, if you happen to rent instead of own a home right now, you can always change your housing category by clicking on the line item and changing it to rent. Also, if there's any one of these categories, and I'll go back to this car fund, if there's any one of these categories that simply don't apply, or maybe children's college would be one, you can, if you highlight the line and click on this trash can, you can just delete that category. So I'll just go ahead and do that just to show you how to do that. So the other thing to keep track of is as you're adding expense items to the spending plan, it's decrementing what's left to budget. So right now we have $3,800 left to budget from the starting place of our $5,000 in income for the month. So I'll go ahead and put 800 in here for rent. Like I said, I'm just kind of making these numbers up as I go. So don't get too hung up on proportions or anything like that. Okay. Now I will say the first time you set one of these budgets up, that's what takes the longest time. When it comes time, once September's over, for example, when it's time to create the October budget, the application makes it very easy just to transition this budget into the next month. One other thing I want to point out, because this is somewhat new, or at least it's something I've noticed, is there's a little bit of an integration between the budget portion of the app that we're in and the ELPs, because if you put in something like auto insurance, it'll prompt you could potentially save money on insurance. So I'm assuming if I clicked on that, it would take me to one of Dave's ELPs. So there's a little bit of a banner ad element to all this, but it's not too much of a distraction. Okay, so at this point I've set up most of my expenses, and if you notice, I still have $1,380 left to budget, so that's just margin. A couple things I can do is if I do have debts of some kind, I can add those in. So let's just act like we have a car note, and the planned amount, the monthly payment is $200. Put that in. So now I've got $1,180 left to budget. If there's anything else I'm anticipating, like a house repair or something like that, I could add an item for extraordinary items. Or if I wanted to add an entirely new budget group, you can, pardon the dog, you can add an entirely new budget group by clicking on that bottom button there, and then just give that budget group a name, and you can add line items underneath there. I don't really have anything to add in this case, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that group. But this budget has margin in it, and that's a good thing. So what we'll probably want to do is just beef up one of these two savings funds. Let's just say we'll beef up the emergency fund. So what I want to do is I want to add that 1180 into this 500. And unless you got a calculator handy, I think the easiest way for me to do that is to zero out the emergency fund. I've got 1680 to budget. I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. And it's an every dollar budget, so that's what you want. This application set up to have a zero-based budget, and so you want to give every dollar a name, or in Moneywise parlance, we want to give a job to every dollar. And so at this point, we've given every dollar a job. If we went over budget for some reason, if say I planned 1,800 for my emergency fund instead of 1,680, it'll show you that you've gone over budget. And obviously, if I don't put anything in here, it shows that I have 1,680 left of budget. So the application is pretty good at getting you to balance your monthly budget out to zero so that you've given every dollar a job. So that's a good thing. It's a good check and balance. A couple other things to show is that if you can change what you're looking at in terms of what you've spent versus what's remaining. It's not working for me right now. Let me try this again. Well, hold on, maybe I need to put it in a train. Oh, here we go. If I want to look at what I've spent versus what I have remaining in my budget, I can just click on the numbers themselves, and it'll flip between what's remaining in that category versus what's been spent. And that'll come in handy as you go through your month and you're logging transactions. And so, as I mentioned earlier, one of the advantages of the Plus membership is your transactions come in automatically. And so, and you can link your bank accounts. And so your bank account information you can access by clicking on accounts right here. And then any transactions that you have coming in, we have 11 in right now, come in right here in this transactions section. So I'll go ahead and open that up just to show you how easy it is to drag and drop expenses. So for example, we've got $35 here with Kroger. We know that's groceries, so I'm going to go ahead and drag that in to my groceries category. And now that expense has been tracked. And so you can see I've spent $35. I've got $665 remaining. So that's pretty handy. The other thing that's handy is you can split transactions. So let's say this Tom Thumb bill, which I'm going to go ahead and click split, is part of its groceries, part of its personal money. I can split that bill by going in here and selecting groceries and selecting Nate personal money. I'll choose grocery and personal money. And so now I have the ability to split that transaction. So let's say 125 of that transaction was for groceries. I've got 24.84 left to split. So I'll go ahead and put that 24.84 into my personal money, and I can go ahead and track expense, and that voila, that those expenses or transaction is split between groceries and my personal money. So as you can see, and if I want to add a new transaction, so if I'm using the manual subscription and that's what I want to do, I can hit add new, and then I just create an amount. So let's just say $10. Let's say this was Sprouts, which is one of my favorite Vietnamese restaurants. I'll choose a budget line item. And track expense. So that expense has been added to my budget category. And finally, just kind of wrapping up here, in terms of its fairly simple application, as you can see. One other thing that's nice is that in terms of what you plan for expenses over here, you've got this pie chart essentially of showing where your money is going. And so, as you can see, I'm pretty heavy on savings here. And so it just shows you what proportion of your total budget is put into each category. So we got 21% in housing, 38% in savings, 10% in giving, and so on and so forth. And so what this could be helpful for is as you're putting together your spending plans and you're looking at comparing your spending plan to, say, recommended guidelines for what percentage of your budget should be on lifestyle or on giving or anything like that. This application just helps you make sure that you stay within the guidelines of what you're hoping to accomplish with your spending plans. So, and likewise, you can change this also to spent. So, in terms of our total budget, we've spent $194 so far this month. So that's good too, because this is a little bit of a tracker, just a visual representation of how you're progressing against your budget, and then also what your remaining is. So pretty helpful application. Definitely a lot of options out there. This one works really well for the Mickish family, like I said, for a variety of reasons, but probably the Most important reason is ease of use. In terms of limitations, you can't really pull a lot of reporting, to my knowledge anyway, out of the EveryDollar app. It's not as robust reporting wise as say like a Mint or something like that. And then that subscription fee for the to get your accounts linked can be a little bit of a distraction for some folks, and so I definitely understand that. So, but this application works well for us. Obviously, our hope is that you have some sort of tool in place to help you with your spending plan and to be a good resources or good steward of the resources entrusted to you. So with that, I hope you're all well. I hope you enjoy the MoneyWise course and that you learn a lot from it. If you have any other questions about this application or how I use it, always feel free to email me at natemickish@gmail.com. And that's my email address at the bottom left hand of the screen. So I'm always happy to answer questions or bounce ideas or be a sounding board for ideas that you might have. And thank you for your time and your attention, and I hope you're all well.